I had no idea the British press was so bigoted.
This one's wife. Better without you. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. It has often been remarked on that Harry looks miserable when he's with this one's wife. There are two fundamental reasons for that. The first is the common aspect of the ensnarement with the narcissist. The fact that he has been in the sustained devaluation for years, which is punctuated by returns to the golden period. Those are called respite periods and are part of the push and pull that keeps him invested. But for the most part, he's in a sustained devaluation, which means that he's subjected to malign manipulations. Most likely, in the case of this one's wife, extended silent periods, glaring, cold-shouldering, malign triangulation by comparing him to other people unfavourably, by making false accusations, by engaging in circular conversations, by unfounded criticism, by finding fault, by cross-examination. Thus, anybody that is subjected to that sustained form of behaviour starts to question their lot in life and ends up pretty miserable. The many millions of people that have accessed my work and those that have commented and those that have accessed my consultations regularly talk about the impact the narcissist has upon them, in many instances describing the misery that they're subjected to in considerable detail. The second aspect, again driven by her narcissism, but is more specific to Harry, is the fact that initially he was the main draw. After all, he's a prince by royal birth. This means that he has been used to a lifetime of privilege, attention, some of which he complains about, but essentially people wanting to see him, talk to him, spend time with him. All of that creates a particular type of character, and one gets used to it. Then along comes this one's wife. Now, at first, she will have been deferential to the extent that someone like her can, in respect of the fact that Harry was the main draw. Because he was in the golden period, she would have been treating him favourably. She would have naturally been giving him plenty of spicy poontang. She would have been caring for him. It was false compassion, but to Harry it would felt like he was cared for, that he was listened to. She would also follow his lead, not because she recognised that he was better than her, but during the golden period, her narcissism recognised that the appropriate thing to do was replicate him, let him take the lead. After all, he is the prince. That, however, does not dislodge the notion that this one's wife is the most superior individual. All that happens is the narcissism keeps that under wraps during the golden period in respect of their dynamic. When he enters the sustained devaluation, she wants the world to know that she's the star and he just happens to be married to her. It's not a case of this one's wife, but rather that it's he's my husband. She regards herself as the centre of the universe, and that started to manifest with regard to the way that she would behave, pushing in front of him, interjecting, interrupting his conversations, interrupting his handshakes, and ensuring that she was the one that was seen. We started to see how Harry looked dejected as a consequence of that. Not only is he not used to the fact that he's relegated to second position when he's attending such events, but the fact is that it is his wife who's doing that to him, somebody who's meant to love him, makes it doubly sore for him. The consequence of all of this is that as a result of the sustained devaluation and, in effect, being belittled by her pushing in front of him repeatedly and making herself first, it all makes for an unhappy Harry. And thus we have seen various pieces of footage showing him looking grumpy, cheesed off, hacked off, and pissed off. It's also been noted that when he's away from the corrupting and malign influences of his wife, he perks up. He's got a sparkle in his eye. People often talk about how the old Harry has returned somewhat. And this has been reported on by the enigmatically named web desk from Geo News that touches on Harry's recent appearance at the Grey Cup match. Now, leaving aside Harry's appearance where he didn't really have much to say for himself, as he clearly didn't understand the sport, we're focusing on what Harry is like without her. The report states Prince Harry appeared happier and more confident as he continued his solo appearances at the Grey Cup match in Vancouver without his wife, this one's wife. According to royal expert and biographer Hugo Vickers, the Duke of Sussex, who often appears meek when he is with the Duchess, seems to thrive in her absence. Praising the Duke's solo efforts, the expert further noted that Harry excels when focusing on sports and charitable work, rather than promoting what he calls California speak, seemingly dictated to him by this one's wife. We've seen Prince Harry make several appearances without this one's wife recently, Vickers told The Sun. Of course, it's what he does terribly well when he's doing things with football, Invictus Games and sport. He's much better at that, frankly, than when he's sort of talking what I might call California speak, which seems to have been dictated to him by this one's wife, he added. He continued, "So I commend every time he appears. I must say, and I'm sure he's very popular, it's a good thing that he does it so he's sort of forging you know, some kind of return to the old Harry. I do think that when they're together, she seems to be the one who's sort of moving the dialogue on. She seems to be the one with the voice, and he seems to be the sort of individual meekly following in her wake, and you know, he may not like that so much." Accordingly, Hugo Vickers identifies that Harry perks up and seems far happier when he's doing things that he's used to and that he's away from the influence of his wife. Let's have a little bit of a look at some footage of Harry appearing at the Grey Cup match, and you can make your own mind up about his demeanour. Here we are.
Vancouver, Prince Harry, the Duke of Sussex, and the patron of the Invictus Games, which are coming to Vancouver and Whistler in February, and alongside Wendy, who is competing for Canada at those games. First of all, is both of your first Grey Cup experiences, and what are you looking forward to most?
First Grey Cup, yeah. What are we looking forward to? The game getting started. Let's go.
Hey, we went on for 5 hours. Tell me.
A few things arise from those two short clips. The first, Harry's really thinning on top, isn't he? But maybe he will give in to it eventually and get it all shaved off. Secondly, you can see the crowd were really delighted to see him there, a completely underwhelmed reaction. And thirdly, no wonder Gary Lineker resigned from Match of the Day. It's quite clear that the next titan of sport is going to be Harry, with those brilliant insights as to what he's looking forward to in relation to the game. But leaving those points to one side, what you can pick up there is a chirpiness about Harry, that he's smiling, that he looks pleased and that he's enjoying being there. But that wasn't the only thing that he was doing in relation to his attendance at the Grey Cup. He was also plugging the Invictus Games, and this time he didn't have the face hugger that is this one's wife hanging around trying to make it all about her, as she had done at The Hague and at Dusseldorf and at Whistler. As reported in the Daily Mail, Prince Harry made his second appearance in Vancouver today as he launched the Invictus Games school programme in Canada, with the heartwarming game of sitting volleyball. The Duke of Sussex visited Seaforth Armoury and met with elementary school children studying in the city as he talked to them about his annual adaptive sports tournament for wounded and injured service personnel. His visit comes on the heels of a surprise solo appearance at the Canadian Cup final. During his visit to the historic Canadian military facility, Harry participated in a series of events, including a spirited game of sitting volleyball, and appeared deep in conversation with his young fans. Heart-warming photographs from the event showed Harry, who was dressed in a grey shirt, surrounded by smiling children, as the group posed for photographs. In a speech that was shared on X, Harry said the visit had a profound impact on him, as he shared his hopes for the spirit of Invictus Games extending beyond its community into schools in Canada and hopefully around the world. Seeing them learn about the Invictus Games has had a profound impact on me, because this is where Invictus starts to go even wider outside of the Invictus community, into schools in Canada and hopefully around the world, he said. Videos from Harry's visit to Seaforth Armoury showed him surrounded by school children as they appeared eager to share a high five with the Duke. According to the Toronto Star, the Invictus Games school programme comprises educational resources about the tournament's history and purpose, aimed at students from kindergarten to grade 12. And as you can see from the various pictures that have appeared on your screen as I'm talking to you, he certainly seems to be enjoying himself. One might suggest that hanging out with kids is about the right level for Harry, but perhaps putting that cynicism aside for one moment, what you can see is that he certainly does look much happier when he's able to get on with things without somebody grabbing his hand, prodding him in the back, stepping in front of him, and interrupting his handshakes. Now, it's interesting that Harry is looking to promote the Invictus Games with a school programme. Quite possibly this is being done for the purposes of seeking further funding, and might just be part of the Ingriftus. But we're not focusing on that in this particular video. What we're looking at is the fact that, freed of his jailer, away from his captor, he certainly is better without her. He's able to do the things that he is better at, which is meeting people, talking about sport, doing the charitable side of things, that he isn't having to get involved in woke nonsense and all of the celebrity stuff that this one's wife clearly favours. Furthermore, it shows that when he's actually away from her, he's more of himself. You see, when a person is ensnared by the narcissist, much of their personality becomes eroded by the presence of the narcissist. This occurs because the narcissist has to be the number one. It occurs because the victim comes second. And it is a case that so much of their personality becomes subsumed to the needs of the narcissist by virtue of being ground down by the narcissist's demands and abuse, but also that they let go of so many things that are dear to them. Their interests, their hobbies, the things that once preoccupied them, involvement with friends and family. Much of that goes to one side because of the presence of the narcissist and the demands that are made. And thus, as is the case of many of you who've been involved with a narcissist, you will recognise that you become a shell of your former self. It is only afterwards, once escape has been obtained or you've been disengaged from and you start to move on, that you realise just how much the narcissist eroded from you. And it's similar with Harry. When he's with this one's wife, he's second best. When he's with this one's wife, he has to take a step back because she's always the one that's in the front. When he's with this one's wife, he looks downtrodden and miserable. When he's with this one's wife, he looks like that ginger poodle on a leash being prodded and pulled and directed. When she's not there, he gets centre stage. And it's not just about him getting back to what he's used to, namely the focus being on him, but it's also that he's able to do it without that permanent presence where he has to double check everything that he's doing, the proverbial walking on eggshells. Because, believe me, that where he would have spoken over her from time to time, or perhaps held the conversation for longer or didn't involve her, she would have let him know about it away from the public eye. She will have given him an icy blast or a heated blast thereafter. Accordingly, what we see with another trip that involves Harry without this one's wife is that he's certainly better without her. And that's because he's coming free from the influence of the narcissist. Something that happens to all victims. I'm HG Tudor. Thank you for watching.